Well, just on, that question of accountability, though, there has been a bit of good news, I think. Maybe you tell me on the accountability front this week, because ex-CIA and ex-FBI directors John Brennan and James Comey are now under investigation, apparently, allegedly for giving false statements in relation to 2016 and the whole Trump-Russia collusion report, which has been completely discredited even by the CIA. Here's a little bit of John Brennan on MSNBC.
I testified in front of many, many congressional committees in the House and the Senate over the years, and I continue to explain exactly what we did during this process, why we tried to make sure we stayed true to our intelligence responsibilities, and that we were not going to do anything at all to try to interfere in that election. I am clueless about what it is exactly that they may be investigating me for.
Kurt, when he says not do anything to interfere with that election, I kind of feel like the vision should stop and we should hear the narrator say, actually, they interfered in the election. What do you make of that defense?
If John Brennan came to me and told me that the sun was going to rise in the east, I would lean out my window to confirm it. I believe that are we going to allow perjury or not? I mean, are we going to have rules or not? Because if we have rules that are only applied to some people, that's not having rules, that's having tyranny. If these guys lied, and I despise both of them, but, we're not here to railroad people. We're here to punish wrongdoers. If an investigation reveals a lie to Congress that violates the appropriate section of the federal law, then they should be prosecuted just like I would be. If I got up in front of Congress and committed perjury, I'd have a one-way trip to Leavenworth, okay? As I should. Why do they get a break? Because they're bigwigs, because they're important? The standard needs to be higher for people with responsibility, not lower, not a free pass. It's extremely frustrating. It's going to take some time to get my country out of this mindset of a lack of accountability, the same kind of lack of accountability we talked about with regard to the Secret Service.
I love your talk there about accountability, because it really does feel like for all those years of the Biden years and the Obama years, there was just this sort of free-floating kind of ethic where you could do whatever you want if you were on the right team. And I feel like a bit of that crept into the dialogue this week when there were these claims that there was going to be some sort of amnesty. Trump was going to do an amnesty for, farm workers and hotel workers. And it was just sort of basically, again, this sort of thing where, we'll just go back to the old ways where there's no accountability and you don't have to follow the rules and all of that. That got slapped down pretty quickly. But my question for you is, where do these things, these sorts of stories, you watch the media, you talk to the people, where do these sort of things just come out of nowhere, and suddenly there's a headline in the Wall Street Journal or someplace that says, oh, well, Trump's considering an amnesty? That's completely not true.
Well, there are people who want an amnesty, and they want to push him that way. The idea that there is an amnesty is false. Just a few miles from here, our customs enforcement people went out to a strawberry field and they got in a big fight with a bunch of dirtbag communist agitators trying to keep them from swooping up the illegal aliens, which they must. Look, I keep hearing about America's democracy and how important it is to protect our democracy. Well, our Congress passed our immigration laws. Our president signed them. People voted to enforce them through Donald Trump. So we should have some sort of arbitrary decision not to do what the processes of democracy said we're going to do. That's not democracy. That's tyranny. I didn't sign up for it. I didn't go to war twice to defend it. It's nonsense, and we have to quit that.
Well, and, just on the migration thing, and you're absolutely right there. My thing I always say is when you see someone put the word our before democracy, watch out, because you know what's coming next. But
just it ain't my democracy.
Yeah, it ain't my democracy. But, just on this immigration thing, comment on this, that now we have seen thanks to, I would presume, all of these efforts, a sudden huge jump in employment of actual Americans. According to the Labor Department, the number of foreign-born workers has declined by more than 500,000 since January, while it has increased by more than 2 million for American-born workers in the same time. I kind of feel like, maybe this illegal alien situation kind of was the big problem that we were told it wasn't a big problem.
Well, look, I'm tired of being told that my order of concern must be foreigners followed by Americans. I'm an American, and I think in America, Americans should take priority. That doesn't mean I don't like foreigners. I married an immigrant. I spent years away from my family overseas, physically protecting immigrants, or not immigrants, but foreigners, where I could have been killed. So I don't have to qualify myself for these commie hacks. All right. But I don't think it's inappropriate for a nation's government, whether it be America looking out for Americans or Australia looking out for Australians, to put their own people first.
Kurt Schlichter, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time and your clear speaking. Check out his stuff online, and I think he's got a new book out, too. Now, stick around, because Jenny Taylor joins me with more on those awful Texas floods and big news about the border. But first, more big news. Huge news, maybe the best news to come out of the Trump administration, which has just made the greatest travel-related announcement in 20 years in the United States. Take it away, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem.
With this no-shoes policy, we anticipate that Americans and travelers and those coming into our country will be very excited that they will no longer have to remove their shoes. Overwhelmingly, the policy will be that no longer will that be required of every single person that comes to a checkpoint. The golden age of America is here. We're so excited that we can make the experience for those individuals traveling throughout our airports in the United States much more hospitable, more efficient for them, more timely, and that they can get to their destinations and spend much more time with their loved ones and with their families.
Hallelujah! You can keep your shoes on when you go through security. If you haven't been through American airport security for a while, well, you don't know why this is such a big deal, but it is huge, because for more than 2 decades, travelers in America have had to take off their kicks to go through the screeners because some British jihadi tried to blow up his shoes. Yes, those of them there on the screen, and that took place a few months after 9/11, and it led to decades of entirely idiotic security theater. And now it is done. Well done, President Trump, and well done, Secretary Noem.